Hey everyone, it's Annalise from Great Education, Colorado, here with you on an emergency live session, folks, because Colorado is live right now. We are litty. If you didn't understand what that meant, it means we're on fire. We need some things happening. The governor has called in a special session. So, with special sessions, you got to take special actions. And I want to bring up Lisa Weil from Great Education, our executive director, who will help explain what we are dealing with right now in Colorado. You see, I got the mountains, got the backdrop. Colorado is in a special session. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Annalise. I'm kind
So,
of loving that thing behind you there. You got some. I
I
know
got
your
a baby
daughter's.
gym. This
Yeah.
is a baby gym.
Hey, I really appreciate you.
Preschool, early head start.
I appreciate you putting this together because it really is an important time, and I know a lot of people have questions about what's going on with this special session.
Yeah, I mean, I was confused. I'm like, wait, I thought there was, things in the newspaper, advertisements. There was a lot of stuff going on before the ballots came in, and a low voter turnout for a multitude of reasons. And with that, outcomes that are impacting everyone
That's
across the
right.
state. So why are we in a special session, and when is it? What is going on? I said
Well,
right now, but when is it really happening? Special session is happening when?
the special session starts tomorrow, and they're going to go through the weekend. They got to get something done before Thanksgiving. And the reason for this urgency, if Proposition HH had passed, hello, Aurora. If Proposition HH had passed, we would not have a special session. What Proposition HH was trying to do was to stop some real spikes in property taxes. Um, that are a result of current law that taxes were going to float up automatically because of a just a temporary fix that was done before, um, and because the property values have spiked so much. So that's what Proposition HH was trying to address, and they were doing it responsibly. That's why we supported it. It was really needed property tax relief right now, especially for the folks who really need that support now, that aren't as high income, and need some help and relief from the spiking property taxes. But it did it in a responsible way. In that, you remember, it property taxes pay for schools. Schools are paid for both by local property taxes plus what the state pitches in. And when you cut property taxes, either you got to cut school funding or the state has to put more in. And so that's what Prop HH tried to do, was to create a way that we could give that property tax relief without hurting schools. So right now what's going to happen if they aren't in special session is those property tax increases are going to happen, and they're going to happen on for the bills that people are going to start seeing in January 2024. So they got to act now. That's where they're that's the urgency.
So they have some decisions to make, and try and make sure they're supporting the average Coloradan, right? Property tax will go up pretty immediately, right? If
That
this doesn't change, and it's already not cheap to live in
No,
Colorado.
that's right. That's right. And it really is harder for people who bought a home that was within what they could afford and is now, according to the assessors, worth a heck of a lot more. And so there are really good ways. The way that HH tried to target some of the to exempt the first $50,000 of the value of a home, which means a lot to somebody with a $250,000 house, not so much to somebody who's got a $4.5 million house. So it really was trying to target that, and I think the legislature will be looking at that. But we just got to remember that the larger if flat tax cuts are going to help the wealthiest the most, those $4.5 million mansions are going to get a lot more property relief than folks who have owned their houses for a long time and in moderate uh, level houses. So um, it's really critical that we balance out. We want to give relief to the right people, the right amount of relief, without hurting schools. And so that's what we're actually asking right now. We have created an action that people can take really fast. It's really easy. And all it's saying to the legislature is, uh, thank you for coming together and figuring out how to give needed property tax relief, but you got to be responsible. You got to be responsible to maintain the support for our schools. Because, and I'll tell you, there's some stuff that may be on the ballot in 2024. One of them has already submitted their signatures. It's called Initiative 50, that would just slash property taxes in a way that would benefit the wealthy the most and does nothing to backfill schools or fire districts. And so that's the what they're wrangling with in this special session, is how do you give the relief and target it to the people who really need it without hurting schools. They can do that, and we're asking everybody. They have the tools. They have to know that their constituents really want them to do it in a way that's responsible, giving relief without hurting schools. And we've got that greateducation.org/email your legislators. That is a really easy way to tell your legislators, give us really responsible property tax relief that will protect our schools.
For me, I'm confused. So I thought schools were safe. I thought the BS factor is gone and we're good and funding's cool. So
I know.
what's up with all, how is property tax even at risk? And then still our school and our investment in schools, how is that still an issue?
Right. And Annalise, I know that you know the answer to this and that you're asking, because what we saw, the governor put out his budget at the beginning of this month, and what we started hearing was that schools would be, quote, fully funded, and that we'd paid our debt. Well, that's just not true. Our schools are not going to be fully funded this year. What's going to happen is that the legislature is going to stop cutting. They have been funding our schools at a level somewhere between 300 and $1 billion below just keeping up with inflation over the last 10 years. That has come to $10 billion over the last 13 years has been cut out of our schools. And this year, we're not going to cut anymore. And to call that fully funding is just, it's all we're doing is meeting the minimum, the floor, the absolute floor that was set by voters in Amendment 23 in 2000. We put that in the Constitution. So right now we're going to finally, after 13 years, follow the Constitution. But that was supposed to be a floor, not a ceiling. What we should be looking at is, what would fully funding mean? Maybe that we're paying teachers a salary so that they can live where they teach. Maybe it's making sure, fully funding would mean that every student has access to career technical education and advanced coursework and art and music. Fully
And
funding is
libraries.
libraries. Fully funding is not, okay, we finally stopped cutting.
Yeah, it's just the phrasing on that we can talk about in another life, but it just is compacted with this special session and the confusion folks are having. We had someone even comment and say that was their question, like, what? How are we funded fully now and then stuff still at risk? Like, if we really were, probably wouldn't be at risk, would it? That is
So
bad.
I'll just make a point here. If the legislature gave the kind of property tax cuts that, for instance, this ballot measure Initiative 50 would do, there's no way they could even do this, stop the cutting. The cutting is called the BS factor, the budget stabilization factor, the negative factor. That's this workaround that the legislature has used to get out, get to avoid having to fully fund, I shouldn't say that, to meet the constitutional floor. If there were huge cuts in property taxes, the governor wouldn't be able, or the legislature wouldn't even be able to stop the cutting. They wouldn't be able to get rid of the BS factor because we'd have to spend a lot of state money just backfilling the property tax cuts. And I'll say it is frustrating right now. We're going to be giving back $3 billion in Tabor surplus rebates. And that's in HH, I think we didn't really make it clear that yes, there would have been some reduction in Tabor surplus rebates, but there is a value proposition there. It is about funding our schools and making sure that we can use the economic vibrancy that we've got. I mean, we've got revenues coming in beyond what was expected and beyond what Tabor allows us to keep. That means that if we don't start investing that in schools, that so-called surplus, the truth is when economy is bad, we cut schools. And when the economy is good, we cut schools or we just leave them where they are. We don't reinvest. So it's a no-win for our schools. We've got an economy that is producing revenues that could start paying our teachers better.
I want to show a couple things. One, I will show just to follow up with what you were just describing. The what is it called? Difference in educator, the investment, excuse me, in public education right now. It says, this is from Scott Wasserman, and it said, the only thing that makes Colorado stand apart from other states when it comes to education is how little money we put towards our schools, not how we spend it. And that was in support of HH at the time. And he shared the graphic. So I want to share that. Give me a second to pull it up. I should have it ready, but I wanted to make sure I had his quote too. So can you see the graph?
Yeah.
You see the graph. So what we're seeing is all the funding is, and it shows the darker blue is instruction employee salary. And then the lighter blue, instruction employee benefits, pupil support, instruction staff support. We're getting into the red with general admin, school admin, and other. Colorado, let's see, let me just say, who are we under? Like, we're under South Carolina, Kentucky, Arkansas, Georgia,
Right.
Missouri. These places pay their teachers the equivalent of like $13 statewide. So we're under them. We're not spending as much as them. It's ridiculous. I'm gonna stop sharing that. It's just ridiculous, and we have to do better.
Absolutely.
And that's the reality. Like, stop saying fully funded means one thing to some people and another to others, right? So politicians we're fully funded, but it's like, in comparison to who? Prison inmate spending? No. Like, fully funded would mean that the needs of all the schools are addressed, in my opinion. That's what I believe. Like, if there's any openings, these schools would have all positions filled. Students would have paraprofessionals per IEPs or need, right? Teachers would have a livable wage in the state of Colorado. Like, fully funded means fully functional. And you would have, even though we have 70% graduation rate, our test scores and reading scores are not indicating functionality post high school. Fully funded means fully functional.
The needs of students. And one thing I want to say, Annalise, it's something that I'm really excited about. Great Ed worked with legislators last year to commission a study of what it actually would cost. Colorado is one of the few states that's never even asked the question. We've got these standards. What would it cost to make sure that every student, regardless of how they learn, where they live, what language they start out speaking, how do we meet the needs of all those students? How much would that cost? And more important, what are the resources that would be necessary? So I'm excited. We've been working on it for a long time that the state of Colorado is actually going to ask the question, what would full funding mean, so that kids like Aurora walk into a class size that's the right size and have access to the curriculum that they need to be, members of our communities and leaders, and so that study is going to they're asking for proposals right now, and by the end of next year we can start talking about what is fully funded and talk about what we want to do as a state to make that happen. And I like that the graph that you showed. There's another graph that would indicate uh, just how low we are. We're usually in the bottom 5 for the percent of our wealth that we invest in schools. If we invested the national average, like what other states, the percent of the wealth of the entire state is spent on education, we could have fully funded schools. So that's how you take action. I know that link is on Facebook, it's on our website. But this is we really got to make sure that during the special session we're not knocked backwards and taken off track from getting rid of that BS factor this year. And it's got to be sustainable, and that's why we put the word sustainably in there too. Can't use some one-time dollars for this because we're going to be in a hole next year. And we're not talking about money here. We are talking about students. We are talking about teachers who have to decide if they can afford to teach in Colorado, or if they're going to go to one of the states around where just on the border they could get $20,000 more. We're
Or
talking,
become hostesses and
or yeah,
bartenders.
barista. I make the
Look,
same.
they're gonna make more there.
Yeah,
Or, and no shame, changing careers completely in a way that becoming there was some memes about becoming a Costco manager, making more money than educators. And so but still held, educators are held to such a high standard. We also know that some of our staff went yesterday and heard stories from youth who know that their teachers are not paid enough, who see how impacted their buildings are. They know they don't have certain assets in their building, in even comparison to schools around them. So you're talking about sustainable. We're also looking at equitable, as well. Like that's a fully funded state. And prioritizing education is just a win-win for Colorado. It really is.
Absolutely. That's
Like
a
we want to be able to continue attracting those larger corporations that are leaving certain states on the coast because of high taxes or what have you, or whatever. They're
climate change.
leaving. Yeah, climate change, whatever the case is, they're leaving. And Colorado has lost some major corporations already, hubs that were providing jobs, because they just, quite frankly, couldn't fill their positions with local talent, unfortunately.
That's
and
right.
Then couldn't convince folks to come in and want to start their lives here or bring families here, because the outcomes for students are just not there. It's not prioritized, and people care about that,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And
Well,
Annalise, I do, before we go, I do want to just shout out to the folks who are in our schools. Our schools are doing a remarkable job in light of the funding that isn't available to them, and teachers who have literally the least competitive wages in the country are still showing up for our kids and advocating for them and supporting them through mental health issues, teaching them, encouraging them. And so, always got a shout out to the educators who are giving Coloradans more value, more than we have any right to ask for the not just the what we pay them, but the number of students we put in their classes, or the number of classes that we ask them to teach for these non-competitive wages. So just got to always say our schools are doing a remarkable job, considering what they've got, the challenges that they have, and we just appreciate them. And the narrative that our schools are failing, uh, they're not, but our state is failing our legislators, and we're failing our students by not investing in them and making sure that they can succeed.
I totally agree. And so thank you, Lisa, for explaining what this special session is why it's being called, what it's supposed to be covering, how it could have been prevented, and providing some hope for folks to really reach out to their legislators. We do know that emailing is just one form of contact that you, as a citizen, you can conduct, or a concerned person about our state in of Colorado, and you can reach out and call them.
Yep.
Their information is available, and it's special session, so it's behind closed doors a bit, so you do have to get in and use their methods of communication, but you can tag them. They're pretty responsive and seeing this stuff. So
actually, I'll say that's right. And there's going to be
who should we tag, Lisa? Who we tagging?
Well, if you can find your own legislator, that's always the best, when you can say that it's your own. But if you use hashtag COLEG, legislators see that, and they are packing in a lot into a short period of time. And not every legislator is involved all the time in all the conversations. So they're scrolling. They're sitting on the floor, or they're waiting for committees to get out, and they're taking a look at what people are saying. So hashtag COLEG, and tell them that we need responsible and sustainable property tax relief that protects our schools.
Well, Lisa, thank you. And I guess we'll be waiting on this weekend
We'll
to
see what
hear
happens.
the outcome.
Thanks,
And
Annalise. Thanks for getting this going. And
yeah, we, special session takes special action. So
I like
hopefully
that.
folks will, hey, that's why I'm comms.
Your comms.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Annalise.
Take care and
Bye,
take
Aurora.
action.
Take care, take action.
Bye.
Bye.